Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Rare Wellness Podcast, the podcast designed to help you heal holistically and give you the tools that you need to thrive. We're making it easy to understand medicine and wellness with practical steps from the experts, one podcast at a time. The only thing that we ask is that if this episode helps you live just a little bit better and a little more aligned, that you'll leave us a review and you'll share this with a friend. That's all that we ask so that we can continue to provide you with free, valuable knowledge from the experts of well-being. Today, we are going to have Ashley Shoemaker on the podcast. She is a yoga enthusiast and instructor whose inspiring story of transformation through yoga and sound healing has touched countless lives. Ashley's journey with yoga has been a quest for self-healing and quickly transformed into a passion for helping others. Overcoming personal struggles with addiction, Ashley used yoga as a form of therapy and a tool to regain control of her life. Her experiences with injury recovery further deepened her understanding of the healing properties of yoga, particularly after challenging ACL recovery. Alongside yoga, Ashley has explored the realm of sound healing, which has greatly influenced her approach to wellness as well. Committed to service, Ashley uses her knowledge and experience to guide others on their own healing journeys. So we're so excited to hear her journey and about yoga and her story. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Natalie, for having me. This is my first podcast, so.
Right now, you're in a beautiful place. Where are you in the world?
I'm actually in Maui. I'm here for 3 weeks, and I was like trying to figure out the best background, you know? I thought that was. It's windy out though
so
today.
Beautiful. No, you definitely found it. Thank you so much for coming on and making time from your trip to do this with us. Like, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for asking me.
So before we start on the podcast, I always like to ask each of our guests, what does wellness mean to you? So what does wellness mean to you?
Oh, wellness. I think wellness is just a good life. You know, wellness shows up in everything. Wellness shows up in your mental. Wellness shows up in what you eat. Wellness shows up in your activities.
Yeah.
Wellness shows up on how you treat people. And I think that if you're looking at all aspects of life, that's really what wellness is really gathering for me, is that it's really in everything.
So I know I 100% agree, because it's like if you're only doing really well in like the physical aspect of life, but you're not taking care of like your mental, emotional, or spiritual health, like, is that wellness? So I love the fact that you brought in like the holistic aspect to this. So let's dive right in. Why did you start yoga? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. I mean, I started yoga a little different, I think, maybe than most of. I actually found yoga in my inpatient. I went to inpatient for alcoholism, and I found yoga in there, and I was coming from a world of pharmaceutical sales and a business lady, you know, and so
Yes.
I really just needed a change, and so when I ended up finding yoga in inpatient, I got transferred to an outpatient facility, and I met this girl that she was a yoga teacher in training, and she kept inviting me to the hot yoga at in town, and I would go there. And for the first part, you know, it was for physical, and I would go to the hot room, and I would spend 60, or out of that 60 minutes, I would spend 30 of the minutes like laying on the ground dying. But they said, your body's going to regulate.
Just
so
like trying to breathe.
I'm like, I don't think it is, but I'm going to stay in here because they told me they're going to call the ambulance if I leave. So I just kept coming back, right? And then what the transformation, though, that happened is that it would be like halfway through the day, someone would be like, "What are you on?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Life," and like yoga. And I realized that it was the yoga practice. I didn't know at the time what that spiritual aspect is. Everybody always talks about yoga being mind,
Mhm.
body, spirit, right? And I could get the body part. I'm physically there.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess my mind was calming down,
Mhm.
and I think that spirit part was what that extra
Mhm.
high was, and it wasn't from a substance. So it
Yes.
just kept drawing me back. And that was something when I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life. I was so committed not
Mhm.
going back to the old life I had, because I did not have wellness back then. I had one aspect, and I think
Mhm.
I only
Mhm.
focused on a career. And it was a career that's something I wasn't passionate
Mhm.
about. And I find it funny that pharmaceuticals
Mhm.
is the opposite of yoga, and so
Complete. Like what a 180 change.
yeah, completely. And so
Yeah.
actually I thought about it, and for the first time in my life, I took the time to recover, and I kept coming back to yoga. I kept doing all of the things, though. I was taking care of the wellness part of me. Is like I was getting my social life back. I was getting my family life back. The one
Mm.
thing I was trying to figure out was that career piece. And I'd go to a lot of
Mhm.
AA meetings, and I did my steps, which are really just seeing the truth in the situation. And nothing
Mhm.
happened to me. I allowed it to happen because my self-worth was really low.
Mhm.
And so I just kept
Mhm.
checking in with myself, because one thing I used to do was I used to just, okay, I thought I failed at something. Now I need to go here and do something. And it's like, no, I'm going to take the time,
Mhm.
because yoga was teaching me to take the time and sit with, what do you want to do? And so what I really wanted to
Mm.
do was go to Bali and take a yoga teacher training. And it was like month
Oh,
6 of being back in Spokane. And, uh, and I realized that that's what I wanted to do. And actually the um, people I was emailing um, at
mhm.
in Bali, which was a little bit, out of my price range, but I knew I wanted to go to Bali. And it ended up being that my yoga teacher, she ended up being my first pharmaceutical manager. And I emailed her school,
That's
um, and she asked, and her name's Saint Adeoba. I hope I can say that. I don't know if you want to have that in there or not, but it's a
yeah, no,
unique
I
name.
mean,
And
we'll
so
figure
I
that
was
out.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so after that, she was always my mentor. She was always my mentor in pharmaceuticals,
Mhm.
though. She was a strong business lady, and I was
Yeah.
thinking, there's probably nothing more that I want to learn from this lady, and how it's synchronized by
Mhm.
me waiting 6 months, um, and
Mhm.
going. And then when I got to Bali, I couldn't believe it. Is that like, we have the 8 limbs of yoga, and number one and number two are called yamas and niyamas, and I'm like, these sound a lot like the steps. And there's moral codes and ethics, right?
Mhm.
And my sponsor had told me, she's like, well, where do you think we got this? It was based off the ancient wisdom, because I was wondering why I had this spiritual awakening through 12 steps.
Today's podcast is brought to you by the Premium Center for Regenerative Medicine and Stem Cell Therapy in the Northwest, Northwest Center for Regenerative Medicine. Get back to the activities that you love without needing surgery. You can book your appointment at nwc4rm.com. Again, that's nwc4rm.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Rare Wellness Supplements. You can head over to rareplanethealth.com to get your supplements. My personal favorite is the premium fish oil filled with omega 3s. Again, you can go to rareplanethealth.com and get the supplements that you most need to support your health and wellness today. Lastly, this podcast is also brought to you by Rare Wellness. Rare Wellness is located on the South Hill in Spokane and is one center that provides all the wellness tools that you could need. Whether you're looking for a hands-on premium intimate yoga studio with a therapeutic emphasis, bar classes, Tai Chi classes. If you're looking for skincare treatments, injectable, hydrofacial, microneedling, organic spa treatments, if you're wanting to get therapeutic massage or book functional medicine appointments to get down to the root cause of your inflammation, Rare Wellness is the place for you. Whatever your wellness needs are, they have it covered. So to book your appointment today, go to rarewellness.com. Again, go to rarewellness.com and mention this podcast for 10% off when you're booking. Okay, time to get back to the episode. We're going to come back and explore and talk about all of that more because that is so interesting that you were able to like find the spiritual awakening through recovery and then also like the parallels with yoga. And I want to explore that. But first, I just want to say, I think anyone who has ever tried hot yoga, we're going back to like, I have so many points in my head from everything you said. Anyone who's ever tried hot yoga or has that first experience in the room can relate to what you were saying about absolutely just dying. I remember my first time I was like, is everyone in here okay? Like, how are they still exercising and moving? And I am literally dying. And like, and every friend that I bring is like, it's such a mental, but at the beginning, you know, you do come for those physical aspects. And then it really does just like slowly become like this like addicting, because it's what you were talking about, experiencing this high afterwards, the spiritual transformation. Like I've heard so many people say, you know, like because our body stores so many emotions and like wisdom, it's like explore your body and then like it like awakens this part of your mind that you don't tap into otherwise. And so it's just like, anyway, I also think like just like the challenge of a hot room and like it's like a mental battle, even just to like stay through the 60 minutes the first time you do it. But anyway, I was just dying at your description of it because I was like, I have so been there. And yeah.
It's funny because I used to think yoga was too slow for me too. That's why I never got into yoga before I did. And I was like, well, push me in a hot room, things aren't too slow anymore.
Nope. No, that's so true. I think that's another huge misconception about yoga is like, for me as well, being like an adrenaline junkie or fast paced person or anyone like you really, it's so easy to underestimate because you think it's like, oh, these like slow movements. And yet it requires so much engaging of your body and mind. And then honestly, at the beginning, like I could not sit through a yin class. It was too slow for me. It wasn't occupying enough for my mind. And over time, it like slowly, like you said, it forces you, for some of us who are hyperactive, it's so hard to sit down and meditate, right? Like I could not sit down and meditate for 60 minutes, at least at the start, but it like works this muscle of meditation through movement and allows you to be comfortable enough in your body and comfortable enough with movement to be able to find stillness in your mind. So it's just like an incredible tool in that aspect as well.
Natalie, I'm so glad you brought that up because actually a big part of my recovery too was I was doing yoga along with rock climbing, were my two activities.
So cool.
And you said adrenaline junkie, right? And that's what I was searching for was that adrenaline. And what's funny is that my yoga practice increases my my climbing so much because climbing the type of meditation too, because when you are literally about to fall and we call them 20-foot rippers, right? And if I have climbed above a cliff and I'm about to fall, my mind instantly is going to the fall instead of being in the present moment looking for the hold that I need to go to. And I remember the first time this happened and my partner down below said, Ashley, because he saw me freaking out, and he said, breathe. And I was like, how's my climbing partner going to tell a yoga teacher to breathe? But I'm going to breathe. And I took a breath and I found the hold. So it is within that adrenaline that the yoga was able to help me because I did need to slow down. I needed to slow down, and it helps in every situation too, especially when, you know, you have a busy day and like you're driving to work and then someone in front of you is going too slow, or you get to work and then, you know, maybe like you run into like some people that aren't doing well. You know, everybody has their own stuff going on. And that's one thing I found out is that nothing's ever about me. It's usually about the other person. It's what do I make it about myself? that's kind of what
So good.
yoga has taught me to look at, is like, what stories are you making up in your mind right now?
I love that. And just a little tangent here as well, as I love that last phrase that you use, like, what stories am I making up in my mind right now? Like, that has been such a transformational tool for me, and understanding that we make up stories all day, every day about everything. And so instead of coming into like even a conversation in a relationship or a friendship or a work situation and being like, you this, you this, you that, it's like the story I'm telling myself is that XYZ, and then being like, am I understanding it correctly? Am I telling myself the correct story? Or like, what you hit on so many beautiful things, even like what we were saying with yoga, just like learning how to breathe and coming into like movement with, first of all, movement is meditation. That's like a whole topic we
Yes.
could probably do an entire episode on. But then just the
Right.
power of breath. And like you said, like coming into the present moment, so many good things in there. I wanted to touch on going back to talking about your journey. You had mentioned finding looking for validation from one thing to another, and like always needing to stay busy. And I think that that's something that a lot of our listeners, and I know I myself, can also relate to, and how that manifests and expresses itself in different people's life, is different. But I love how you shared that like yoga was well, I guess I just wanted to, for our listeners listening, sometimes it's so easy to forget that our worth is innate, and it's not something that we can like earn through doing more and doing more
Totally.
and doing more. And I guess I just like wanted to hear a little bit more about how did like yoga impact your sense of self and like sense of worth. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what yoga did for me was it connected me to my emotions. And for the first time,
Mm,
because it makes you be in your body, right? And
yeah.
I didn't, and along my journey, I've only been doing yoga since 2019, but I made it my life. So that whole like jumping into something,
Oh,
but we jump
it's
into good
amazing.
things now, right? We
Yeah.
jump into good things, and I can actually
Yes.
feel my emotions. I'm in tune with my emotions, because when we come to the mat, and
Mm-hmm.
when I'm saying, warrior two, look at your front, your middle finger, and take an inhale, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
now in the moment, looking at your middle finger, taking a breath, and you are very present. So, like, all the cues that yoga teachers
Mm-hmm.
give, we're like giving you an idea of, take a moment. Because when I'm driving the car, I'm not like, look at your hand, Ashley, it's on the steering wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we
Mm-hmm.
connect
Yep.
that breath with our body, and we come to that 1 hour class, it's called a yoga practice, so that we are practicing on the mat, so that we can then
Mm.
transfer it onto what's going to go in life. And so that is really, what yoga did for me, was it it allowed my I was never in my body to experience the uncomfortableness. And when you are in that
Yeah.
uncomfortable hot room, like we talked about, you are really in that body. You are really in there, and you are working
Mm-hmm.
through some uncomfortable things, because I think you have to face your uncomfortable parts of yourself so you can get comfortable.
I think especially in today's day and age, coming into our bodies, for one, in a society that's so cerebral, like we're so disconnected because everything is on our phones, right? Everything is on the internet. Jobs are sitting at a desk. Like there's so little movement that like a lot of people couldn't like catch a ball if they needed to, right? Because like our mind body disconnect is just like
Hmm.
huge as a society. And so like you really have to, I think in the past, if you have like a more hunter and gatherer society, or like you're living without technology, like in the fields, like you're using your body for your work every single day. And yet now it's like, if you're not intentional about making a practice to like connect to your body, it's not going to happen on accident. um
No, no, it's
yeah.
not.
And
And I would say too, the one thing, and I think a lot of people, when they go to a yoga class, we always stress the breath, right? And when I was
yes.
a newbie in yoga, I think we're all newbies in yoga, really. It's like a life,
Yes.
right? Um, I
There's
think
like
we're all
layers to it.
students.
There's always more to
Yeah,
discover. Yeah. Yes.
exactly. Self-discovery. It is one of the paths. So, but it's the breath, right? Because I'm not thinking about the breath
Mm.
I'm going to take 5 minutes from now. I'm not thinking about the breath I'm going to take 5 minutes ago. I'm thinking about my breath.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I can come back to doing a movement with a breath, I'm connecting my brain and my heart together through coherence, because we have brain waves and we have heartbeats. And so when they are
Mm-hmm.
out of sync, because our mind and our body is separate, um, the breath is going to connect that. As we take that inhale, I'm telling my brain to calm down. And as I take the exhale, I'm sending a neurological signal to my body to calm down or to relax. And you can always feel the relax. Sometimes you can't feel the calm
Mm-hmm.
down, and you want to take a moment
Mm-hmm.
to pause, and I think that brings me back into my body when I take that moment to pause, because I might be saying something
So
rude
good.
or something like that. Is like
Mm.
I now also am aware of other people's feelings. I now can actually recognize other people's feelings.
Because you've slowed down enough to be able to actually be present to notice them, to
Yeah,
pick up on that energy. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So
absolutely.
let's talk about. So, Ashley, it's so interesting because from my first interactions with you, you give off just like full of life, like sunshine energy. And at least on the outside, like this is like, I've always received like the most like vibrant, full, like positive vibes from you in every interaction that I've ever had.
Thank you so
And
much.
just like love and warmth, it's just like radiates. So has it, I guess I'm curious, like, has it always been that way? And yeah, let's just start there. Have you always been that way? Yeah.
So this is a funny question, because yes, I have always been this way, but my insides never matched my outsides like they do now. So I
Wait,
think that,
explore. Yes.
yeah, like I was a people pleaser. Um, if I acted a certain way,
Same.
um, and people would smile, I'm going to act a certain way, right? And I think that I
Mm-hmm.
became, I created an outer shell, I call it, and then an inner shell, and nobody knew that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that in therapy, those are like survival techniques. My therapist and inpatient told me
Mm-hmm.
that. And there was a point where I realized, though, I wasn't ever living life to make me happy. Um, I was
Mm-hmm.
just surviving. Um, and when I got the chance to come back and really look at what makes me happy, and like I said, I guess that's kind of why kept checking in. Yoga makes me really happy. And the more
Yes.
I had done, and my therapist said too, is that you, Ashley, if you do the things that make you happy, in 6 months to a year from now, nobody's going to question what you're doing, right? So I drastically changed my
So
life
good.
from pharmaceutical rep to yoga teacher, and I wear these big baggy pants, and like
Yep.
my hair, I used to straighten my hair and wear makeup and stuff, and I don't do that anymore, right? Because it doesn't make me happy.
That's
And 6 months to a year,
so good.
I'd completely changed myself, and I couldn't have been a happier person, because I kept that one sentence in my head. Just keep doing what you're going to do, and they're going to see it, and nobody's going to question it. And that I had to hold on to the faith that was going to show up, because I was happy, everything
Yeah.
else is going
Yep.
to fall
Well,
into place.
I think there's a lot of people. I thank you so much for sharing that. And I also think there's so many people listening who can relate to this. I say I'm a recovering people pleaser because I don't like to claim that anymore. I don't claim that anymore, but for sure can relate to like people pleasing. And sometimes it's harder to catch from the outside as like a trauma response because it blends in so well, but it's fawning, right? You have like flight, freeze, and fawn. And that wasn't talked about before. So it's so crazy because a lot of times it's like, it's exactly what you were saying. It's like, okay, well, if everyone else is happy on the outside, but I'm miserable on the outside, like, is it worth it? Like, no. And it can be really scary, especially like for people listening, I think, I just like want to encourage you guys, like, it's possible, right? Like you can break through. And the first time you start to break those boundaries, or you start to actually be in tune with yourself and be like, you know what, this may not be what everyone expects from me, but this is what I want. And like, I do care about my opinion. And like, you start to like change your narrative on the inside, and like start to have the bravery to make those steps to like actually embody who you are and not who you think other people think you are. Like, it is such a scary feeling at first. So just encouragement to everyone listening. And like, Ashley, it's so cool to like know that you made that flip. And like you said, it's like, I know that day is going to come. Like, I just have to like stick through it enough to like get out on the other side. And like, eventually people aren't going to question it. Like, so
Yeah.
good.
Well,
So good.
and also to add something too is like, I look at pictures now of me and like since 2019 when I started this journey, and I look at pictures before. And
Yeah.
what's so funny is I look at the pictures before and I look like a happy girl, kind of like what you were saying. But I
Yeah.
actually know what I was thinking in my head at that point, and I thought I was ugly. I thought I was a
Yeah.
loser. I thought I was fat, and I'm looking at a picture and I'm like, oh my God, you
It's
are not
crazy.
fat. You are so beautiful. And I just didn't think anything of myself. But you would look at a picture and see a happy person.
Right.
I look at the pictures now though, and you can really see the glow. I feel like you can see that there's a
Oh,
coherence with the inside and that outside, and there's a spirit in there, that is like actually bright and shining through. And I'd say, now that we're talking about that, that was a lot to do with yoga and following the passion
okay.
of being able to
Yeah.
teach what
And it
the
really,
depths.
it really radiates, Ashley. Like, it's when you're living in line with your energy, it truly radiates on the outside. Like, and it really shows through. So, like, it doesn't just show in photos, like it really shows in presence and energy. Um, so Okay, so going back to, you went to Bali for your teacher training, right? You go in, you're immersed, you've made this complete change in your life. How is it coming back? How is it coming back and like carrying that with you? Were you a yoga teacher from the start of it? Like, did you experience some like, wait, is this my new identity? Like, tell us a little bit more about your journey with yoga from that point.
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy coming back. And it was, yes, absolutely my journey. There was no going back, because here's the thing: before going to yoga teacher training, I was going to a lot of AA meetings and a lot of yoga, but I didn't know the correlation yet. But I
Yeah.
love to talk about my spiritual awakening, but I could only do it with people
Yes.
in AA. And so I couldn't talk to like what we call normies, I guess, um, outside
Yeah.
of that. And then when I got to Bali, all these people are talking about a spiritual awakening, and I may have different terminology, but I'm learning their new terminology. And I'm like, this is the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to be able to talk about a spiritual
It
awakening
fits.
with all the public. And this is what I wanted to do, because that's like was my passion, is like talking about like all these connections and all of this mind, mental, and psychology essentially, and like finding yourself. And when
Mm.
I came back, it didn't go that well, because now I'm talking to normal people that aren't alcoholics, but we're not
Uh-huh.
on an island. We're in Spokane, and
Yep.
I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
too, is like not everyone wants to hear what you have to talk about, right? When I'm like, nope, I see this
Not everyone
connection,
wants a
right? I see,
spiritual awakening.
yeah. And so, but it didn't matter, because again, I knew this made me
Yeah.
happy, and I was just gonna find my way. And what's funny is I actually came back December 2019, in
Mm-hmm.
and then I had become a tax preparer, because I knew that I was going to need 3 months to 4 months um, to do something while I got the yoga. I was finally trying to be responsible,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
like plan. Possibly it's not going to go
Yeah.
exactly the how you go. And then I got my first job right out of like the week back, because they said all you have to do, you got to go put your name
Mm-hmm.
on sub lists. And like when you get out of yoga
Mm-hmm.
teacher training, it doesn't mean you're a good teacher. We learn about yoga.
Not
We
at
don't
all.
learn about how to teach yoga. And I would stay up because
Yep.
then I went to, it was at Wild Walls climbing gym is where I work too because I'm a climber. And so they said, yeah, we have a sub position for the next 9 weeks. And then it starts in a couple weeks. And I was like, oh shoot, like I wouldn't take my own class at that point, right? I wouldn't take my own class at that point. I
Right. You're
stayed
like, wait,
up
how do I?
late till like 3 or 4 in the morning every single morning, writing down cues. And I always thank my sister-in-law. She's been through some pretty crappy routines, you know.
Mm,
She's always my guinea pig, and I get to be her guinea pig. But from then on, yeah, no, I knew yoga was always going to be my thing. But then in March of 2020, 4 months after I got back, COVID happened. And I was like, this isn't going
mm-hmm.
to shut me down. And I had a lot of friends in recovery that were needing help with mental. Like we're all, I think anybody
Mm-hmm.
during COVID needs help with
Yeah,
mental. I just happen to have a lot of friends in recovery. I also happen to have a lot of normal friends too, because I don't really think of an addiction as like alcohol was my solution. It wasn't the problem. I was the
totally.
problem. And so I think that everybody
Mm,
has an addiction to something.
so that is so good and so deep. And I think that everyone listening needs to like, because I think sometimes we really do put it too black and white of like, there's all sorts of people who are addicted to, you can be addicted to many things that maybe aren't a substance or alcohol, and it goes unchecked because people just aren't aware of it, right? But like you can be addicted to
Yeah.
work, you can be addicted to your phone,
Yeah.
like you can be, and I think there's so much judgment oftentimes passed in a way, like you said, like let's stop looking at the symptoms and look at the core. And a lot of times you'll find like many more people can relate to that than they might
Totally.
realize. So
And I think that's why I don't care about talking about my addiction, because I don't really see it as like, the
yeah,
society doesn't think addictions are cool, but I'm like, everybody has them, I just really think that. And so yeah, then I
100%.
started meeting with friends in the park, and it turned into doing yoga in the park
Mm-hmm.
twice a week. And so essentially when I look back on it, I created my own yoga studio in the park twice a week. And
Studio.
I just, yeah, it's in a park though. Cause I was like, why do these people keep showing up? Cause I'm still working on my self-worth. I'm like thinking, and I need a
Right.
lot of, I think we always want, to be perfect. Right. And so I need a lot of practice, and I keep showing up, and like sometimes there'd be like 25 people, but what it
It's
it really
amazing.
got to take me out of this. I get really nervous in studios, because I don't get to interact
Yeah.
with people. I like to talk to my students, ask them what's going on with them, because
Yeah.
I'm not here to just teach a class. I'm here for you. I'm here, like, what's going
For
on,
that
you
transformation
know, like,
journey that yoga can provide. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like, and then we created a community at that point, because a lot of times we get there like 15,
Yeah.
20 minutes early, or stay 15, 20 minutes late, and we all get to know each other. And at that point, then, you have jokes going on, and all of that. And so, yeah. And then when, COVID lifted, it was like the it was like the not best industry to go into, because it was like it kept being like phase three. Is that what we
Mm-hmm.
used to call it? Like phase three was gyms and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So then I got to start teaching in a
Yeah.
recovery center. And then that like really fit,
Mm-hmm.
and then I tore my ACL 2 years in. Then I got to actually go
Yeah.
to sorry, and then after that, I kept saying to the universe too, like, I wish 2019 I could have 2019 redo, right? Meaning that when I came back from
Mm-hmm.
Bali, I was like ready to go, right? And then COVID happened, because I know that myself personally, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, when you have momentum, we use that, right? Because I don't want it to die down.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, and
Yeah.
everybody did have the chance though during COVID to slow down. It's what did you do at
Yeah.
that time that we got to slow down?
I want to dive in more about your injury with your ACL. But I guess before that, I just really wanted to go back to, you said there were a lot of similarities between yoga and your like AA meetings and experience. Can you tell us a little bit, like, what are some of those similarities and like what lined up? And maybe for people listening who might be experiencing or dealing with addiction recovery, yeah, more on that.
Yeah. So the 12 steps, they really they make us see where we are, um and it's harsh language, but selfish might be wanting it my way, wanting special treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Dishonest is setting myself up to be wronged. um uh
Mm-hmm.
Believing in an inaccurate belief, stubbornly being leaving an inaccurate belief. Self-seeking might be trying to manipulate others to do my will, or fear of rejection, opinions, all that. So those
Mm-hmm.
aspects, right, are a lot of why we lie in
Mm-hmm.
addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
in yoga, so the philosophy of yoga though is like, um, we have non-attachment, right? Or there's non-stealing,
Mm-hmm.
in our yamas and niyamas. Stealing
Mm-hmm.
someone's time, like I didn't see that as stealing either. Like let's say I am meeting with somebody at 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
At 1:10, I've
Mm-hmm.
stolen 10 minutes of that person's time. I never saw it like that. And
Wow,
so I had to
that's
become
deep.
very
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, it is very deep. It's like, wow, I didn't even see
Yeah.
that. And it's like, and so I
Yeah.
had to take responsibility for that in AA, where I never would have
Mm-hmm.
taken responsibility for that had I not had this
Mm.
journey, right? But I have a sponsor that makes me do those things, and the growth that I saw in doing these things um, rigorously was amazing. And when
Mm-hmm.
I was in teacher training, I'm watching people, of me being taught these same things, but different language. So, like I said, the non
Mm-hmm.
stealing, non harm. I don't want to harm anybody. And like also, what's really crazy is
Mm-hmm.
that service is a path of yoga. And in AA,
Yes.
service is a big thing. So when we're giving, we only get what we give. And I was giving so much because that's what I was taught. And I don't think that had I, like, my
Mm.
life depended on me doing these steps. Whereas I think people that aren't
Mm-hmm.
in a position of recovering from addiction, they're just in danger of having an unhappy life. But my unhappy life had gotten me
Yeah.
so far down that I had to choose alcohol to cover up my unhappy life. Right. And so when I go over
Yeah.
here and now I'm
Right.
seeing that, oh my God, I was unhappy before I started drinking. And now I can see the
Yeah.
correlation too with yoga of like when people come to yoga mostly because they do want to be in wellness and they do want to be
Yeah.
in a good state of mind, and they have their own stuff going on, addiction or not, they have life going on.
Yeah.
And so seeing these principles that were taught to me in an ancient 5,000-year-old practice that I was practicing because my sponsor was telling me, and getting the results of a spiritual awakening that they were talking about, I was like, oh, I can see it now in all aspects of life. There's actual stealing. I steal like something from a store, but and then not taking
Right.
responsibility of how I'm harming people, with my actions, right? Like,
Totally.
um,
Totally.
and I have to take responsibility. And a big thing in AA is amends. where you have to clean up all of the harms that you've caused. And I remember also in yoga teacher training, my teacher talking about when you going up into becoming a guru, um, and you have to clean up even all of your harms, all of your financial amends, all of those things, because what happens when we're sitting in meditation is that if I'm thinking about all of those things, resentments, harms that I've caused people, that takes me out of being present, who I'm trying to connect with the divine
Yeah.
at that point. And so I really saw a lot of those correlations going on, in that, man, this is just the recipe for life to me.
So good. No, and then dedicating, it's cool to see that you experienced that and then now you're able to turn back and help other people on their journey through your professional career as a yoga teacher and sound healer. Um, Before we dive into more of that, tell us about your ACL. How did you tear it? How did that impact your job and your practice? And yeah, how did yoga impact that?
Yeah, so I actually had just come back from my second training in Mexico, where I also got
So
to
cool.
teach a 200 hour. Um, and that was a total broad shot opportunity. I think I was only I got back in March and I tore it in August, on a trampoline park. Don't go to them, guys.
Wow.
Don't go to them. I was with my niece. And I mean, this now is
No.
2021. So, like, we had just come out of the pandemic. Everything's getting better and everything. And then I tear my ACL, and I'm like, what is a yoga teacher supposed to do
You're
on
like, of
crutches?
course.
Right? But I had just been trained in
So
yin.
unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, but again, if a lot of people always wonder, like, I'm not quitting. Fine, I'll just pivot. This is because, and I
Yep.
always thought about, like,
Yes.
what is the universe trying to tell me? Not why did this happen to me, and what am I supposed to learn from this experience? My yoga teacher and my sponsor both believe in visualization and healing, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, and like doing
Love
cash.
Dispenza. So yeah, so
Love,
good.
love him. So I just happened to have two mentors that were, and what's funny is after that training, I was attracting naturopaths and energy healers for some reason. So I was starting to really get in tune with the universe, and I'm like, why am I attracting these? And I had gone to a lot of sound baths in Mexico and in Bali, and so since I was trained in yin, which you can teach from the mat for yin, yes, or well, I like, now I'm a yin teacher and I don't go around and adjust everybody because I can. But
Yeah.
I then sound healing came into my life, because I was like, well, sound bowls you can sit down. So I ordered three off the
Yeah.
internet, because I can't go anywhere, right? I ordered off of Amazon. I got the three, and I was like, I should have gotten all seven. and and so I got back on there and I got all seven, and I think I had even a couple $1,000 worth, because it's hard to find good instruments, right?
It
Is
is.
like I had to buy quite
Yep.
a few sets, and then I eventually returned them. And I was already teaching at the recovery center, so I looked at it and I was like, sound healing's great for addiction. Sound healing's good for mental health in general. And that's how a lot of my recovery and detox center, they're all about mental health, trauma based, to exactly what you go to a therapist. So I'd bring them in there. And I always kind of use them as my guinea pigs on all the weird things that I want to do, because they're so open to it, and they're
Love
wanting
that.
to learn. And the experience that they were having was the experience I was having when I'd have the sound baths, right? And so I just, and I was actually taking music lessons. I took piano lessons for the first time a year
So cool.
prior. And so it was like all the bowls are A through G. And so it's like, then I got to use my music theory along with knowing what the chakras
So
are,
cool.
you know, which goes with the emotions, which goes with the different parts of your body. And so it's like all of these things just started to come together, and it was so beautiful. And so I just started, and then, you know, Wild Walls didn't have sound bath at the time, and I'm like, can I bring in my sound bowls? Because I also just like doing it, and I can't move around. So I'm like, how
Yes.
can I how can I still have people wanting to come to my class, um,
Oh yeah.
and have a good time without me being so mobile? And then obviously my mobility got
So
back
good.
after like a year and a half, but
Yeah. Today's podcast is brought to you by the Premium Center for Regenerative Medicine and Stem Cell Therapy in the Northwest, Northwest Center for Regenerative Medicine. Get back to the activities that you love without needing surgery. You can book your appointment at nwc4rm.com. Again, that's nwc4rm.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Rare Wellness Supplements. You can head over to rareplanthealth.com to get your supplements. My personal favorite is the premium fish oil filled with omega-3s. Again, you can go to rareplanthealth.com and get the supplements that you most need to support your health and wellness today. Lastly, this podcast is also brought to you by Rare Wellness. Rare Wellness is located on the South Hill in Spokane and is one center that provides all the wellness tools that you could need. Whether you're looking for a hands-on premium intimate yoga studio with a therapeutic emphasis, bar classes, Tai Chi classes, if you're looking for skincare treatments, injectable, hydrofacial, microneedling, organic spa treatments, if you're wanting to get therapeutic massage or book functional medicine appointments to get down to the root cause of your inflammation, Rare Wellness is the place for you. Whatever your wellness needs are, they have it covered. So to book your appointment today, go to rarewellness.com. Again, go to rarewellness.com and mention this podcast for 10% off when you're booking. Okay, time to get back to the episode. Well, God, I love that word pivot, because like you said, it's just like your mentality towards what happens to you in life really matters, right? It's like just that phrase of like, instead of why did this happen to me, like what is this trying to teach me, what can I do with this? And it's just like, it's so interesting hearing your experience from your first yoga experience of walking into this like hot yoga, like probably I'm assuming like full vinyasa, like power type
yes.
flow and like training, to now that you like now your body is literally like shut down and it's like, Ashley, okay, we're taking you deeper now, like you can't just like do the vinyasa, like now you really have to focus on like yoga without the body, but through breath, through mind. And then, like you said, combining all of it. But it's just like, it's so interesting. And it's always so funny how it's like, earlier in this episode, we talked about like how sometimes like the point is to do hard things, right? Or to do something that like is hard, or you can't do, and like how much you grow through discomfort. And it's so interesting how like whatever anyone listening is like, your higher power or however you experience life is like kind of guiding you through like, okay, we're going to go deeper now. We're going to go deeper. And yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's
Yeah.
funny because the universe had been telling me to slow down with two other accidents before my ACL, that I just like, I fell off of a rock climbing wall that was I would have fallen 45 feet, but I only fell 15 because my face was the thing that caught me on a branch that was hanging out of the side of the mountain. And so like that was a warning
You say that
sign.
so
And, like,
casually. My face.
I know. And it was like, I mean, like my face blew up to like here. And it was gnarly. I had a doctor friend that had to like pick out all the things. I didn't want to go to the emergency room because they would have
my
like
word.
torn apart my face to like X. So I was just really lucky there. And like the universe was telling me to slow down. And then I didn't slow down, and they're like, we're going to take your ACL. And now you're going to have to sit with your thoughts. And I'll say that mental work though, that mental work is not easy. And it's like, and that's, yeah. And
No.
I think that's why I think I really started getting into energy, is because I saw these connections happening. And that and sitting with yourself was something I hadn't done in a while. And it gave me the
Yeah.
opportunity to dive deep.
Well, and even for like, I also tore my ACL in high school, and for any athletic or hyperactive person, it's I truly think it's one of the worst injuries that can happen to you, because you can't run, you can't even walk, you can't, depending on how you tear it or what happens. But for me, like,
Yeah,
I had to be in an immobilizer because I had broken bones and stuff along with it. It was just an awful recovery,
totally.
and it's not fun. It is not fun, and it's mentally, injuries can sometimes feel like they're bringing you to a dark place or destroying you if you use a lot of activity to cope with life. And so, like you said, to be able to then like find like, okay, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to step into my mind and like dive deeper and get to know yourself. And it's like, the more you practice showing up in your own body, whether it's through movement, whether it's in a, group setting at first in a class, like the easier it gets. I want to hit on Joe Dispenza really quickly. I truly believe that, like, well, in science, a lot of case studies and Dr. Dispenza's work and many other people, really prove that your mind, we all know our mind can make us sick, right? Your mind can make you sick with disease.
Yes.
Stress on your body can cause autoimmune diseases, so much stuff. So it would make sense that the same thing is true in reverse. And there are plenty of case studies, so many doctors. If you aren't familiar with Dispenza's work, I mean, he's one you can look up, but there's many. And your mind can heal you, right? It can either bring you to disease or it can heal
Yes.
you. And so why, like, it makes so much sense, like, even just from a practical perspective, like, regardless of how you approach it, it's like, it would make sense that we sit down and practice this muscle of our mind and keeping our mind healthy if we really truly understand the implications of it. So
Abs-
I just wanted to
totally.
hit
I
on
mean,
that
I
because
love that
you
it's
said,
a,
yeah, your journey is incredible. Yeah.
well, I love that you call it a muscle, and that's exactly what it is. It's like the muscle, right? It's a muscle. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to give you another idea is that, like, I was told I was musically challenged my whole life and I didn't have a good voice. And then I thought about it, and like
Oh,
my your voice, right, is a muscle. So I
right.
started taking singing lessons
Mm-hmm.
recently, and I'm like now learning internal yoga and realizing it's an internal sound bath because you can feel the vibrations. And like that's like another part of the journey, is like, because now I have all this
So cool.
energy. Yeah, it's freaking amazing. But like I had the same thing with my ACL. I couldn't move for I had like, it was a bad one too. There was bones and everything as well. And it totally, so I'm
Ugh.
sorry you had to go through that, but you get it.
I'm sorry for you too. I know, we like, and it's, oh yeah, it's just, I have so much respect and empathy because I try to block out those memories. It's just not fun. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not. It's not. Sometimes I'm like, what
Um.
happened there? Because I totally went in. I sometimes wonder if I went into like a
Yeah.
disassociation. Because I'm like, well, we're in this. We are in
Yes.
this for the next year and a
Yep.
half at least. But at least I
So
knew there was an end date,
I know.
I'd say with like
Yes.
my addiction, I didn't know there was
Um.
an end date. And I'm like, oh no, we got this one. There's an end date, they're telling me, it's gonna heal.
Yeah. No. Well, and I think for people listening, again, it's, your story, and everyone has a story, and it's cool to know, like, no matter what you're going through, like, you have the capacity, your body has the capacity to heal. It has the capacity to change, like, no matter how deep you are into whatever it is that you're experiencing, whether it be a physical injury or a mental injury or whatever it is, like, you do have the capacity to change. So, like, hold on. Like, if you needed a sign today, and you're listening, just hold on and know that it can and will get better.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I'd like to add something that like just came into my head too about the
please.
energy healing and sound healing, is that like, because I had torn
Yes.
my ACL, I had to have it straight legged. I did refuse surgery. I chose not to do surgery for 5 months, and I was going to heal it visually. I was still teaching yoga. I ended
Amazing.
up going climbing. I skied twice, right? And because I was doing the visualization, but I had bought those sound bowls, my my leg would sit in between the root big C and the yellow one, right? Because I have to have it straight, and then I have my other 7 around me. So I'm always playing them. And I kept walking into that doctor's office. And now I do comfrey ointment and castor oil packs on my knee every night too. But I keep walking into that doctor's office. He's like, I can't even believe that you are standing on such an unstable leg. I was like, I don't see unstable. I see healthy. Because I told my parents too. I told them, I was like, by the way, from here on out, I'm only going to refer to my knee as a healthy knee. And like I'm standing on crutches, right? And like everyone
Wow.
would ask me what's wrong with my
Yep.
knee. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have a healthy knee. Because that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza said to do, you know? And then
No, I
like because I had
love this.
it
I'm
was
sure you
a
got some looks
full
from people who didn't.
Oh, because it was a full ACL tear, it was a partial PCL, meniscus, and then a distal tibia fracture. So it wasn't like you're saying how yours was like very severe. It was like mine wasn't a normal
Yeah.
one either. And the doctor's just
Tear.
astonished. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Power of the mind." But I also truly do believe because I was doing so many
I do.
sound
Yep.
baths because I refuse to quit. Like this is my journey and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to figure it out. It doesn't matter. That I think that was a
Mm-hmm.
big piece of why my leg was doing so well because I had about 5 people around me that had either torn an ACL or a meniscus, like my climbing partner the week before. So like it's like I had all these people around me, they couldn't even walk. They're in so much pain, but they're focusing on that pain.
Yeah.
And so I always wondered why my case was so
Yeah.
different, and I think that it was a lot of aspects that we had talked about.
So finish the story for us. I mean, obviously, like you're active now. Do you climb now? You walk? Like, how is your knee now?
Oh yeah. It was a long journey home to that because I think most people are allowed to like start to run at month 3 or whatever, and I had to wait to a
Mm-hmm.
month 10 because they took part of my IT band because I couldn't ski the way I wanted to, and I didn't have enough training in my
Yeah.
mind at that point to really go in the visualization. So yeah, no, I the first thing I did was I joined a 30-day yoga challenge. And it was, man, it was
So
difficult
cool.
to get my body back. And I now had a new appreciation for people. And so I always had an appreciation for people that couldn't move in my class. Like I understand
Mm-hmm.
um, that there's physical um, limits for people and everything. But I had a new understanding because I had to mold my body back to the shape that I wanted it that's at now, which I'd
Yeah.
say I can
Yep.
tell that one hip's a little bit, um, less strong than my other one. But those are just
Mm-hmm.
opportunities for growth, is what I call them. My opportunities of growth, and I call it my new ACL.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was
Oh,
one-legged climbing during that, but now I'm back to full climbing. I'd say too. I went
amazing.
skiing. All last year and the year before, and so but
That's
I had to
amazing.
work at it, but it all started
Yeah.
with that yoga challenge, the 30-day yoga challenge, is something that you want to do in yoga and something you want to do in life is consistency is key. If I only go to one, it's better to do
Yep.
10 minutes of yoga 7 days a week than one 70-minute class once a week,
Yeah.
you know?
So good.
Or everything gets tightens back up on a physical level. So like that's the body part of yoga. The mind part was getting through that whole thing.
No, this is so good. Ashley, I love you're just spewing wisdom and I'm so excited about this and even just I'll probably re-listen to this because I'm just like, no, but what you were talking about with mindset too of how you were saying like I wasn't at the time like I hadn't exercised that muscle of even like belief, right? Or that muscle um of like it is such a practice. The way we react to things in life is an actual practice. And so I always like, when I see someone who's like mentally fit or like, I don't know how else to describe mentally fit is the phrase I'm going to use, but like when you see someone who's like looking on the bright side in life or like choosing to um, choosing to react in a really strong way, like that is a muscle that they have developed and a muscle they have practiced. And I feel like too often in life, we are fed this, like from a young age, we're fed this, like, well, you're kind of stuck the way you are. Like there's people who are optimistic. There's people who are pessimistic. There's people who are this, there's people who are that. And like, yes, we all have our natural tendency, but guys listening, like truly, like you're inspiring me, Ashley. I'm like, man, I actually really do need to like reactivate my meditation practice and like take it seriously, because why wouldn't you want that? Like, why wouldn't you want to like have like the most vibrant, authentic, like full version of yourself? And like, life is hard, right? Stuff happens. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you fall off a 40-foot wall. Like that's crazy. The fact that your face caught you and your face is so beautiful, like that is amazing. But yeah, like life happens, right? Like hard things happen, and it's like we know that they're gonna come, and so it's like, are we gonna prepare in the good days and the bad days? Like, are we gonna do what we can to like set ourselves up for like just the most fight, and then to be there for other people, the people that we love. You were talking about earlier about service. So talking about everything we've talked about in your journey, and starting with like just the physical benefits and movement of yoga, how its impact on addiction, and then as an athlete, like how it's complemented climbing, other areas of your life, the breath work aspect, then moving into sound healing, dealing with injuries, and like just all the different layers of what yoga has impacted with identity, self-worth, relationship with other people, service. Like there's so much. But I love your classes. One of my favorite parts of yoga, as we talked about from the beginning, is like how the movement then activates your mind, right? And how it helps you to get deeper into self-awareness. And so, for our listeners today, we are so lucky. Ashley is going to walk us through like a little like 5-minute meditation. If you're listening to this, and this will be at the end of our episode with Ashley, that was the full episode, but it'll also be a separate episode. So if you're listening to just the meditation and you want to understand more about Ashley's journey, and also just kind of the backstory to this meditation, please go check out that episode. Okay, Ashley, take it away. Do a little guided meditation for us.
Okay.
Bring that good energy from Hawaii over the internet.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me too. So, if everyone wants to just sit up straight, and if you have your feet on the ground, that's fine. Or let's close the eyes and allow the tension to fall from your forehead and your scalp. Unclench the jaw and let the tongue fall from the roof of the mouth. Let your shoulders soften, back of your tongue, your thighs, your feet. And I want you to take a deep inhale into the belly first, followed by the diaphragm, expanding the ribs all the way to the collarbones. And exhale through the nose, letting the shoulders fall, condensing the rib cage, and pulling the belly button all the way to the spine. Take a deep inhale up through the nose, all the way to the collarbones. And exhale through the nose, let it go. We're going to start by a body scan with your right big toe and your left big toe, the right top of the foot and the left top of the foot. Feeling the sensations as I name each body part. The right sole of the foot and the left sole of the foot. How do they feel? Your right shin and your left shin. Your right kneecap and your left kneecap. Your right thigh and your left thigh. How do they feel? Can you feel the sensation of your clothes on your skin or the air on the room? And if you're sitting down, we come to the pelvis. The pelvis has sit bones, and I want you to take a deep inhale, stretch up all the way through the crown of the head. And as you exhale, let the shoulders come down the back and start to ground down through your sit bones, anchoring you to this earth. Imagine roots spiraling down to the earth's core all the way. And as you inhale, you're lengthening the crown of the head up. And as you exhale, you're rooting down, and thanking Mother Earth for her nurturing power. And then bringing the breath into the belly, opening the diaphragm and lungs 360 degrees, even further than the last time, and all the way to the collarbones. Exhale through your nose, letting it go. If you are available to bring your hands to heart center, I want your thumbs to rest on your heart. Take a deep inhale all the way up. Exhale, let the shoulders drop. I want you to focus on somebody that you love right now. I want you to see their face, maybe their smile. And I want you to send that love that you have for them to you right now, from you to them. Send that to them. Maybe you can even feel the connection and the lightness of head as you're showing love to somebody else. And you can feel a cord because energy has no bounds. And then I want you to open up, keeping your pinky fingers and your thumbs together. Open up your middle fingers, your index fingers, and your ring fingers, opening to what we call a lotus. There's an luminous jewel in the middle of the lotus flower that's shining upon your face. The lotus is a beautiful struggle. Nobody thinks about how that lotus flower got here. We always see is that beautiful petals on top of the water. And with that golden sunshine on your face, I want you to think of that loved one and the love that you sent them. I want you to send that same love right back to yourself, into that luminous jewel, feeling the love and connection, closing all the fingers in. You can feel the energy in your palm. And think to yourself, how can I love someone so willingly? But loving myself may be hard. Take another deep inhale all the way up. And exhale. Let it go. Rub the palms together at heart center. And bow your head to your hands. And I like to end with this one prayer. Universe, place me, and you can repeat after me. Universe, place me in the places you want me to be.
Universe.
With the people you want me to be with. Doing the things you want me to do. Thank you for the joys and challenges of my life. Amen. Satnam. Namaste.
Ashley, That was so incredible. I would love to record like 50 of these with you and just keep it in my pocket for like
Ah,
every morning.
it's really hard for me to do
You
a
truly are
5-minute
so
guided
gifted.
meditation. I'm like
I
a 10, 20-minute person.
I
So
no, absolutely incredible. Also, you really are so gifted at this. And for everyone listening, it's go back to the other episode or go back. If you're listening to this on the original episode, great. Skip over this. If you're listening to this on just the 5-minute guided meditation, Ashley, it's so cool to know that like before 2019, this yoga wasn't even a part of your journey. And yet now you're like a guide for other people to get to experience this like deep connection within itself and like transformation with other people. And so it's so inspiring. Your journey is so inspiring. And like, it inspires me to figure out like what authentically aligns with me and how do I go through that. And it just shows, like we talked about earlier, like it just so radiates that you are in your energetic flow, like you are in the right place for you, and you're such a great guide. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for your time today too. I really enjoyed having you on.
thank you, Natalie. This has been something I have avoided, and I'm so happy I did it. And like, you're inspiring to me because the way you use your words in such succinct and you can focus on something, that's something that I like to strengthen. So you're an inspiration to me, and I really appreciate you listening and asking all those questions. It's just been a joy today.
It's such a muscle, you know, and it's like you said earlier, like the more you do something, this has been my mantra lately is just like, the more, like, if I expect to be good at something the first time I do something, like I'm delusional. Like it's supposed to be hard because I'm a beginner. Like that is how it works. No one wakes up amazing at anything. And so I'm just like, the more I can be comfortable in the discomfort, and if I'm willing to suck long enough, eventually I won't suck, right? So it's just like, it's okay. like I
Yes.
am human. And for everyone listening, like if you need a sign to do something hard, like this is your sign. So thanks again, Ashley. Guys, if you want to practice and you want to find Ashley, I'll link her Instagram handle below, and you can also schedule a yoga class or find when she teaches at Rear Wellness as well. So we'll link all of that in the description below. Ashley, thank you so much. Bye guys.
Thank you.